I've got Mike and Walt. You two tell me a little about yourself. Just a brief. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Walt.
All right, he's going to say the same thing. Career police officer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Career public servant. I've been in public service somehow, in some way, since I was 16. Firefighter and now police officer.
Okay.
But anything other than that, I mean, it's my life sort of been defined by service to others, and got to experience a lot. Don't want to bore your audience with a bio, but everything. I've got to taste a little bit of everything, and now I'm on to training, which is my love and passion now.
And you're an excellent trainer, both of you. We were talking, Walt, that just for an aside, you were one of the investigators on the Sandra Bland.
I was.
Yeah,
that's right.
Interesting information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess fortunate in a lot of ways, not to make light of any tragedies at all, but fortunate to learn a lot in a very short amount of time.
Absolutely.
Which is why I'm training now. I want to share knowledge with others and share experience.
All right. And Mike?
Career officer, several years younger than Walt, but military background brought me to Texas, and then municipal law enforcement.
Where are you
retired
from?
I'm originally from North Carolina.
Okay.
So, and the Air Force brought me here, and then policing called my name, I guess. So that's kind of where we're at as an early part of the career, and then both of us are focused in the training world now.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, wait a minute. Let's give it a plug now. Police Training HQ. .com, and I'm always pushing that now with cadets that I teach at other academies. That's a phenomenal website.
We appreciate it.
You guys put a lot of work into that website.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of it, and I think it's been a long time lingering in the brain, and to see it actually come full circle and actually be an active website and with people using it has been pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Walt and I had the chat in my office one day, and he's like, "Well, I'm on board," and I'm like, "Well, I'm on board." So there we were.
Went to work on it.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Well,
I like the shameless plug, though. We'll take that.
Thank you for the plug.
I'll be doing more of that during this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's start with this. Can you share your initial perceptions of police work when you first joined the police force?
Yeah, should I go first?
Yeah, go first.
I joined, and it was a simpler time because I'm from a simpler area, not meaning intelligence, but I'm from Northeast Texas, and so one deputy a shift, perhaps. It can be busy, it can be not. So it seems a little bit simpler, less tumultuous, but perhaps it wasn't. The perception had been a little bit different, but I learned as a young officer that there was almost a premium on courage and bravery rather than other, skills that we're learning are more effective. And so I say simpler, maybe there's a better adjective, but that's what I feel. It seemed simpler.
It was a different time.
Different time altogether, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. Mike?
I'm listening to you, and so mine is far less romantic. So I was on active duty when it was Carsville Air Force Base in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And my supervisor at the time, Alvin Sneed, I'll never forget him. And one of the things that for your airman performance report was community service.
Yeah.
So I knew he was a reserve police officer, and he kept picking at me. He goes, "Hey, try this out. It'll further your Air Force career." So I went to the evening classes on base, started being a reserve officer, and started liking being a reserve officer. So what started out is I want to be better at my job in the Air Force, drug me away from the Air Force, and it was like municipal or policing in general is where I wanted to be. So, but you reflect back on that now, and even today, and I know I'm 58 years old, I still love the job.
Yeah, let me go ahead, finish what you were saying about, you were at Carsville, now it's Joint Naval Air Base or Joint Reserve Base.
Yeah, it was a good old Air Force SAC base at the time.
Absolutely.
B-52s. I loved being in the military, and I stayed in reserves for a while, but policing just seemed to be the place where I needed to be. And like I said, even after all these years, if because people say, well, if you had to do it all over again, I'd still be the police. I mean, I loved it, and the fact that I don't get to do it in real time anymore, it's not like I'm hooked on wanting to go back and do that again.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to walk away from that profession. And we've talked about this on our own podcast before. I don't want to walk away from a profession where I've got a lot of things I think I can share back. But people do that a lot. They'll spend their careers, and toward the end of it, maybe they start to develop this negativity, and then they walk away. It's like, well, how much experience walks out the door in our profession every single year? And so I don't ever want to be that way. I don't think I could be that way. I love what we do, and I feel like that we have an obligation to share that back with people who want to do that job, or people that are already doing that job who want to get better, or people who are, just coming into the ranks that they're learning.
You're so right, because we were talking. You all are constantly looking at ways to teach and to impart information to other people, and I think that's an excellent thing in itself that you do that. Not a lot of instructors do it that way. You're up to date on all the latest methods, or how you would adapt it to your own platform. You just mentioned, I'm going to give another shameless plug, the podcast. What's the name of your podcast again?
It's our Police Training HQ.
Oh, wow. So it's the same name.
Same name.
And how often do you all put something out?
Well, we're trying to do it weekly.
Weekly,
balancing that in with teaching and some of the other things.
True.
Obviously, we teach a lot. And so we're going to get better. But I would like to at least see us putting stuff out weekly. I think Walt's in the same.
Absolutely, weekly is the goal.
Sure. And you've got a lot of information to put out. So I think that's good. How do you think the public trust and in police can be rebuilt? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah.
Or do you think we have a public trust problem?
I think. You mind?
No, absolutely.
I think the irrational answer would be everything is yes and everything is no. There has to be the possibility that, of course, we do. And that's just true. And so rebuilding is a show me thing. Policing has been and will always be a show me thing. You can liken it to different things like public relations versus even that concept of community policing, that partnership we build to solve problems. And so I think it's rebuilt by actually solving problems. This is very simple and generic, I know, but it has to be something like a show me.
Simpler is better, though.
I agree. Doesn't have to be overcomplicated. I think also you can liken it. Some people they're just not going to like pistachio ice cream. They're just not going to like that thing, whatever it is. And so some people might feel different about authority versus what you stand for as a police officer. It may not be you. It just may be what you stand for. So not to overcomplicate it, but rebuilding requires legitimacy. That's it. And you promote that through show me.
Underlying legitimacy. What say you on that, Mike?
Well, the show me state was probably going to be happy for all the shameless.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
We're having the conversation before you turn the recorder on about people wanting to come teach, and it's a show me for me as well when it comes to that. It's like, you can tell me how wonderful you are as an instructor. You can tell me that you can teach anything and everything, but I'm not going to fully trust you in front of our cadets until I've seen it. So show me. And I think the same thing would apply, as he's saying, within policing is we can sit on the sidelines and go, oh, we're a community policing driven department. You should trust that we have your best interest at heart. But most people in society, I say most, maybe that's an overreach, but there's a lot of people in society nowadays. It's like, you say you're better, then show me that you're better. You say that we should trust you, then show me that we should trust you. It's like, because people they want to see those things in action. They want to see it because sight is our most trusted sense.
Yeah.
We believe what we see,
That's right.
not necessarily what we hear. And I think that's an absolute. If you're not showing it, then there's nobody going to believe it.
No.
I think you're right. In your experience, what has been the most effective method for police training?
Oh gosh, how much time do we
And I am
have?
talking to two of the gurus because I've watched you all from a distance and actually was fortunate to meet you. I know that you put a lot of work into how you teach.
Yeah.
What are some of the most effective methods for you?
Last podcast. I'll let
It
you
is.
tackle it.
Well,
It is our last podcast
we
topic.
put out our last episode is over this very thing. As an organization, we spent time trying to understand what our core principles would be, and we found that it's just synonymous with good adult learning models, and especially training.
Yeah.
And training has to be first and foremost an active experience. Yes, it's got to be followed up by some measurement of their knowledge, but it has to be active, which I'm sure your audience, some of them can think back to a class where it wasn't as active, and perhaps they don't feel like they got as much out of it. And then we follow up with how we teach everything. It has autonomy, where an adult student has some say-so in their training experience.
Yeah.
It has to be relevant. Why do I need this information? How's it going to help me in my career, so on and so forth? And then practical application. We learn by doing. Out of all the studies we read and discuss, adults learn by experience.
Okay.
As an example, if you want to, we took 96 minutes yesterday and took a class and they memorized all the amendments and they got up and did it themselves. It took me 15 minutes, Mike 16 or 17 minutes, and we took an hour and some change just for fun, and they had it down. You take those experiences and you put it back. Now, is that a little bit antithetical to the normal? I would say. I think Mike adds this really well, but it might be just not normal in our training environment all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
Interesting. Okay, how do you believe technology has changed policing and public perception? And I know I love my tours. I love tech. But
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think on that?
Well, I got the glasses and I got the hair, but I am from Northeast Texas. I want to remind you. So
Yeah.
he has been the guru ever since. I'm learning so much from him. Sorry, Mike, I got to punt that too.
Well, I mean, I think you would look at it as how has it changed policing in the field? How has it changed policing in the classroom? I mean, we've gone through way back to the introduction of handheld radios,
Yeah.
right? So that certainly changed safety. But if we're talking more, I guess, contemporary, body cameras, we are way more visual than we used to be. Mobile video systems in cars, but now we're in the world of putting a drone up in the air to, take photos of an accident scene and help us produce drawings, or artificial intelligence where we're able to not only produce reports, but maybe backing that up a little bit. It can be helpful for an officer just to learn to write reports.
Absolutely.
It's like if you struggle with that, then we have a lot of those tools available to us. Most probably free, and I think that there's going to be a giant leap because we see incremental things happening all the time.
Yeah,
we went from radios to there are cameras in our cars to more high definition cameras to body cameras and all that.
Yeah.
I think it's making us probably more efficient.
Yes.
Probably more accurate.
Yeah.
But on the training side, video, for example, if we run scenarios, how much more can a student take from it? Instead of listening to your debrief, it's like, let's watch this together. Tell me what you think you could have done different.
Yeah.
Is there something you think you would have done better?
Yeah.
So, because in real time, this student is experiencing tunnel vision and all the things that they may not even be aware of. It's like, I don't remember saying that. I don't remember doing that. But they can see it and they start to realize that these things do occur.
Yeah.
And for us, we could be saying, hey, you did this and you did that, and they might even recall doing that. So we can see that sort of technology help us in the training environment. So that real-time feedback. We have a report grading. So it's always hated, write these reports, and we'll give you feedback. And then they sit on the instructor's desk for weeks and weeks and weeks.
It's a beating.
Now you write us a report narrative. We have a form. You dump your narrative into the form. It moves it through a little AI system, and they're getting an email back that says, here's some feedback on your report.
It's amazing.
And
I love that.
And it works really well.
And I'm going to say this now. Some of the other colleges and hint, other academies, you may want to get with Mike and Walt about that. There's a little more money in their pocket, but I think it will improve your system, especially in that area.
Yeah.
These cadets need to know how to properly write a report.
Yeah, and we don't need to delay this feedback for weeks on end.
Exactly.
It's like we want to help you move the needle in your training and your development. And again, that's the more real time, the more often they're getting feedback, the more opportunity for them to improve.
That makes sense.
I agree.
I'm going to go now because I know I can't thank you enough for this, but what feedback have you received from users of Police Training HQ?
Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, well, perhaps twofold. First, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity. We're hearing that it's helping them on their in-class exams, which was sort of surprising to us. It was something that we spoke about, but first and foremost, it was exposure for their in-class exams.
Yeah.
So we didn't really think about that because it was more of a state test. But then certainly, simultaneously, we're hearing students report back that it's helping them tremendously on both their state exam and their in-class examinations. Because our theory is exposure. As many questions as you can get yourself through, you're going to start testing yourself better.
And you guys are huge on I was calling it the terrible setting. You're huge on the core things that they need to know for graduation and to become good police officers.
Absolutely.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
So I'm going to bring up Walt's crush, but we didn't make this up, the science behind it.
No.
A lot of our thought is reinforced by people like Dr. Andrew Huberman and his sort of brain science and the science of learning. And the repetition model, the spaced repetition, the quizzing yourself, all those things are supported by science. And that's why our approach is not random. We just didn't sit around and go, I think repetition is the thing to do. We're just filling the gap with giving you the tools to do that repetition. Again, not original thought on our part at all, but the ability for a student in an academy to go, I want to rep out some questions on a particular topic. We're just filling that gap with that product. So. Yeah, I think I just, like I said, I thought it was kind of important because some people go, well, who are these guys?
Yeah.
Well, we're not the scientists behind it.
No.
But we are.
We're applying it.
Yeah, we're applying it. I think that's where we're different from other websites that probably offer similar products or processes. Is they're focused on a large test bank for the ultimate state exam, but it's like you got to creep your way there. It's like practice this topic, get solid, practice the next topic.
Exactly.
Like the top 7 tested topics on the licensing exam.
And you're right. When we were talking earlier before we even turned this thing on, we were talking about being relevant. There were 3 things we said. You said specifically.
He said.
Or was it you?
Yeah.
Relevance.
Yeah.
What do we look at?
Yeah, absolutely. The same thing. So, again, it's relevance of information.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, and then autonomy. That's one that makes, I think, instructors feel uncomfortable because we have to have a perception of control of our room, right?
Yes.
But what we know is adults, based on the studies that we've read, and yeah, it's not our science, but we're applying these to create a more effective classroom.
Yeah.
Autonomy is one we played with and toyed with. So it may look like it's a little chaotic with group work and teach backs, but what we're doing is we're just leveraging what we know about the adult's brain.
Yes.
And so the autonomy also gives the students kind of a say-so. But it also, the beautiful thing is it requires reciprocity. They better come to class prepared because it's on them too.
Yeah.
And so they're joining the conversation.
Got to be buy-in.
It's got to have buy-in, that's right. And then, of course, the last thing is application. You're not going to,
Practical application.
Yeah, practical application.
Yeah.
My apologies. But you're not going to come to one of our classes for long without a scenario.
Yeah.
Or a way to test it either kinesthetically or just at the tabletop. We're going to give you something practical to apply.
Yeah, I think we could easily argue that there's not a topic in the academy that's taught that you can't put practical application in place. Like even ethics, penal code, patrol tactics, fitness and wellness. Everything has it's like it's tied back. Every topic's tied back to every other topic in the academy. And so the practical application is only limited by an instructor not building that into their lesson.
Being comfortable
That's right.
with their craft.
And like you said, sort of releasing a little of that control that the student can come in and be treated like an adult. And I like an example, and you're probably as guilty of as every Walt, me, and probably a whole bunch of other people is, how many times have you gone to YouTube and looked up how to repair whatever, and you're like, I figured it out, right? So we're very much self-learners. We can be. So why is it that we know that, but then we get you in a classroom and we want to kill you with a PowerPoint? It's like, well, why don't we equip? Because you get out in the field and you're like, I don't remember what that offense was, but you're smart enough to go, but I'm going to look it up in the penal code, right? So it's like I think in police there's the need to know and the need to reference, and there's far more need to reference because we're rarely in such a rush that I can't go, I don't remember the exact title, but I've got time to go look it up before we make rash decisions. And that's kind of what we feel about the students is like, these are adults and they're smart people. We don't need to push them into an environment where we're trying to make them feel lesser and make ourselves feel better because we're in control of the classroom.
The boot camp approach is dead for me. And you can remember how some of these police academies were. They approached it with that boot camp mindset. But you're right.
But if you follow it, I think part of the rule should be is, here's our classroom. Out here, we can do all the boot camp stuff you want. But the second they come into that classroom, the stress of the academy environment needs to be reduced, if not eliminated. Because if you're sitting, and we talk about this before, if you're sitting in that classroom and it's all about your cortisol levels being out of whack and you're in fight or flight mode because you're scared to raise your hand or you're going to get in trouble or made to do push-ups because you did or didn't do something, then we've created a stressful learning environment. And I'm sure people would argue the opposite. It's like, oh, no, we have to have this rigid. Sure, I want to see disciplined people in the profession, but not to the point where it takes away from their ability to learn and be comfortable in the classroom environment. But again, that's giving them autonomy and losing some of that power that we want to sort of. It's like we grab onto it, we don't want to let it go. It's like you're never going to be effective in the classroom if that's your mindset. It's like, I'm in control, I'm the sage on the stage and you will listen to me.
Absolutely.
Well, Sid, I think that's the secret sauce that a lot of people are missing.
Absolutely. I agree. I was just thinking, You two, and I tell everybody I've been fortunate to interview, and I've got a lot of other people that are coming up. You two, I was thinking, are gold. I know I've got to have you back in the near future because there's so much we could
Thank
talk
you.
about.
No, we enjoyed this.
Yeah. Now, I've
Absolutely.
got two last questions.
Okay.
I'm going to go with this one. Can you share a success story from someone who used your resources at Police Training HQ? Because you've already said it. You've had people that have come to you
Yeah.
later on and said, hey, this was instrumental in helping me.
But I do want to brag on us a little bit.
Okay.
We have a gentleman in 2 weeks that's taken his time in El Paso and is flying to meet us for one-on-one training based on he's heard about our mission. He's seen a little bit of our work, Mike's work specifically.
Yeah.
And he's entrusted us with one-on-one training to help him. And it's one of the most incredible stories because this is just for his own benefit.
Wow.
He just wants to be a better police officer. And so he's flying out to El Paso. He's going to stay a week with us.
From El Paso.
Excuse me. I do this very often.
No.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I don't want to go to El Paso right now,
But yeah, he's coming to us, and I think that's obviously an honor and a privilege.
Yeah.
But I also think it goes to our mission, which is we can give you quality training, and that is a success for me. We have hundreds of cadets that I think would share in that. Yeah. That to me is a real success story in my view.
Excellent. What message do you hope to convey through your work and the content that you create?
A message to instructors. I don't want this to sound harsh. Get over yourself a little bit.
Okay.
I love.
Humility is good.
Well, yeah.
I love hearing that.
I don't know if you've ever read just the title alone. There's a Ryan Holiday book called "Ego is the Enemy."
Okay.
And it will always get in your way if you let it. It's like you walk into a classroom with ego, it's going to get in your way. If you walk in and you're like, I want to do the best job I can at helping students, whether they're in-service students or whether they're basic cadets, I want to help them improve. And I want them to hang on to the information, whether for a test or for the rest of their career. You're going to have to get out of your own way and look at other models besides a PowerPoint that you're standing in the room reading to them. You got to get them involved. You got to give them some autonomy to be involved, invest in it. Because it's amazing. You watch how people, I don't care if it's just a little short exercise, when they turn around, they turn their chairs around and they're interacting with 3 or 4 other members of the group. Yeah. It's a whole different environment as opposed to, because we all see the body language changes and the eyes rolling. Because just like, here's the next slide, here's the next slide,
I'm
here's the next slide.
guilty of that from time to time.
But
we all are.
But people, when you start to recognize that, and we had this talk earlier about self-actualization. You know, everybody throws Maslow's hierarchy around, but I think it's important that the more you have experience in an area, when you really kind of move yourself up there and you get over yourself, you can actually look at it and go, man, I have kind of been doing that wrong. And ego can get pushed aside. You're willing to change, and you're like, I think I can do this a better way.
Absolutely, and make those improvements.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to follow up, but to not be afraid to try what's new and support it. I mean, certainly don't go throw darts at the wall and see what sticks. But most police officers teach ancillary to their duties.
Yeah.
So I hope our message shows them that there's a way that you can both enjoy teaching, and then also maybe challenge the norm a little bit, and that it's effective. That's what I hope our message shows.
Well, Mike, Walt, on behalf of my audience, I can't thank you enough.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, what a privilege. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. I'm hoping we can do it again soon.
Absolutely.
And we want to have you on our side.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Come on over for our podcast.
Please.
All right.
Please.